Welcome to Concrete Step Pour Part 11. What I'm going to be doing in this video is stripping these steps and starting to float and finish them using some concrete tools. Right now what I'm doing is I'm using a magnesium float just to get these steps prepared for broom finishing. And it's really crucial that not a lot of lines are left on the surface because it'll show up in the broom finish. So just a real light, smooth sort of sway back and forth. Really light when coming down on the tips of the broom and following through. I'll go ahead and wet these brooms down before I put the broom finish on and just shake off the broom before I do that. So I actually did that in the video, but I didn't show you guys. Immediately after brooming, I will edge the concrete. Edging helps keep the corners tight and also adds a little bit of architectural design. At this point of the project, it's really about speed, accuracy, and efficiency. So in this project, I was actually able to leave the iron railing in place and remove the existing concrete and re-pour around the railing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm starting to strip out the faces of these steps, and it's really critical to look all the way up the inside of the form. So you can see where I'm looking here, and I'm just checking because what I'm doing is I'm just checking to see if this thing's ready to come apart and make sure that that everything stays intact. This is where the oil is going to come in handy because the forms are all oiled up, and sometimes when you pull these forms off, if they're not oiled, they will always pull off chunks of concrete off of the face of these steps. So the oil keeps it from sticking and allows the concrete to stay in place separate from the form. So what I'm using here is float pads. They're made up of plastic and styrofoam. I've used these for years. They're great for walking around on the concrete, getting down on your knees and finishing stuff like this. I highly recommend them if you're going to get into the concrete business. So I'll just leave a link in the description and you can check it out. So both steps have been removed, and now what I'm going to do is just gently remove both sides and start taking this thing apart. So whenever you're doing steps like this, you always start at the top step and work your way down. The reason being is that your finished work has to be the last part of the project. So you can see the top step. That step's all done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry down the front of that step onto the second step and work my way down to the bottom of the pad, finishing the concrete as I go. So that top step, I won't come back to that. I won't touch it. It's done. And the second step will be the same, and I'll continue to walk my way out through this. Alright guys, another little tip is that when this concrete starts setting up, especially when these forms come off, that concrete's really going to start setting up, direct sunlight. So sometimes what I'll do in the summertime is just get a damp sponge and sponge the face to keep them nice and tender so that they can be finished up really nicely. So this is where in the previous videos I used a roller to essentially push down the aggregate and bring up cement paste. This is where that tool is going to pay off, because right now the concrete is so firm, but there's a lot of cement paste to work with, so it's making it pretty good for me to finish it. I wouldn't do it without that roller. It makes a significant difference when you get to the later stages, or if you're doing any sort of stamped concrete or architectural finishing. This tool is a must-have. So I'll leave a little tab up top for you guys to check it out. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just using this magnesium float, and I'm just bringing the cream up, and I'm basically going to go around the perimeter of these areas, the face of the steps, and just work the cream up so that it's good enough to put a broom finish on it. So I also like to use an edger even with the open form. So on the first step I showed you how to edge with the form in place. The bottom step here, what I've done is I've removed the form and I'm just free edging this. You got to be super careful when you're doing stuff like this, because that concrete can just fall apart. So you're just really lightly edging the surface and getting it nice and smooth, so that cream's there. So a couple of key tips when I'm doing stuff like this, when you get into the faces of the steps, is just consistently keep working. Don't stop. Continue floating and work the surface, because the timing right now is critical, and any stops could jeopardize the project. So if you really need to, you can get a damp sponge and just apply that sponge on the face of these steps. Sometimes you'll need it, but I mean usually you can just work the cream with the trowel back and forth, consistently working the cement paste around. If you're in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge or Guelph area, check out my website at theartofconcrete.ca. And guys, please leave a comment. I want to know what you think, and subscribe, like. If you have any questions, definitely reach out, and don't forget to continue watching.